as a Jewish leader, what is the community feeling right now? And also, how do the attacks like the one in Boulder, along with the others that we've seen recently, impact Jewish Americans both on a personal and communal level?
Well, first of all, thank you for your wonderful work that you do and your great reporting. I'm coming to you tonight from Jerusalem. It's a little after 11 p.m. But there are a lot of similarities between what you've just asked about as far as the affect on the American Jewish community and what we deal with here on a daily basis. You know, we deal with rocket attacks every day. It seems to be from all over the place. Of course, we condemn what happened in Colorado and in D.C. and in the governor's home. But it's not surprising, at least in my point of view, when you have a previous administration that just didn't pay any attention to the warning signs. You know, unchecked, America could morph into what we've seen in Europe, and who wants that? I don't believe this is by chance. I think it's by design. You know, when you hear the parallel slogan to the ethnic cleansing comment of "from the river to the sea," what's the follow-up? By any means possible. So what happened in Colorado was a demonstration of by any means possible. That's an invitation to open violence, and this is the fruit of years, I think, of, you call it godlessness in American culture and education. And I think some very disturbing things, ideologies, and actors to act out that ideology rush into that vacuum.
Yeah. Susan, how can Christians be a part of the solution here? You know, some might not fully understand the depth or the danger of anti-Semitism. What would you say to believers who maybe feel like this issue doesn't directly affect them?
No, I believe that this is a wake-up call to the Christian church in America. Who would ever believe that the Jewish community in America is not safe in our streets? And that's what this means. As you said, this is the third of 3 very violent attacks, and it's a clear warning sign. These people were not out doing a political rally or making noise or doing anything. They just were a little quiet gathering and a march to remember the hostages who are being held in Gaza. And so we need to see this as a serious wake-up call to the church in America. We need to rise up and, first of all, pray that this evil is pushed back out of our society and out of our country. Pray for the safety of the Jewish people as we pray for the safety of all of Israel, but also pray for an army to be raised up from our midst to stand up against this and speak out against it. And it's my experience that many in the Christian community are unaware of how serious the problem is. You know, they live in a certain bubble in their own life, and they don't always register what's going on in the Jewish community, whereas we're watching that daily. And so we need to be out there educating them, getting their attention, educating them as to what is anti-Semitism, how to recognize it, and then locating those that are willing to stand up against it, be vocal, whether it's on social media, or writing letters to the press, or writing letters to government officials, speaking out in their church, whatever. We need to raise up an army in the Christian community to save America from this hatred, and of course to save the Jewish community.
Mark, you just heard Susan talk about raising awareness among the Christian community. In our reporting and talking to a lot of the October 7th survivors, they've talked about this affinity and closeness with evangelical Christians that they didn't know even existed before. Can you talk about that? Do Jews in America and Jews overseas in Israel appreciate the closeness and the stalwartness of evangelical Christians?
So the timing of your question is curiously good. I was just last week for 2 days at the Jerusalem Prayer Breakfast, if you're familiar with that. Many are, and some very well-known leaders were there. And prior to that, the Jewish News Syndicate, where Pastor Hagee was there, and of course we had governor, we had Ambassador Huckabee, our modern day Maccabee, we call him, who spoke to us last week. And yes, short answer to your question is yes. There is a pretty sweeping consciousness, especially here in Israel, and I actually do a little bit of work with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs here, which runs all the diplomatic operations around the world. And there is definitely a clear consciousness of that, and in the Knesset as well, and an appreciation. You know, we have some differences and some red lines that have to be maintained, but for we all are threatened by what's happening today. And we're very concerned because the last place we ever expected this would surface again would be, as Dr. Michael said, in America, of all places, the land of the free and the home of the brave and the great melting pot. But I just want to say parenthetically, she talked about this being a wake-up call for Christians. It's also a wake-up call for the Jewish people. You know, and I have a two-word answer to all this, and that is live Jewishly. Don't stop hiding.
Yeah. Susan, would you like to add to that a final word or thought?
Well, our organization has been based in Jerusalem for 45 years now. We've been very, very active. We're a global organization with a presence in over 90 countries. And we educate the churches in our community. And I just, would ask your listening audience to get involved, because the job is so big. We have so much to do, but we have cutting edge resources, books, online courses on the subject of anti-Semitism for the Christian community. So we appreciate your help with reaching them.
Well, Mark and Susan, we appreciate you both being with us this evening. Thank you so much.